Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to Fan Appreciation Month here on Reaction and Review. Tonight, guys, I'm taking a look at an Australian horror comedy from 1975. That movie is The Cars That Ate Paris. Now, I would love to say that I know a lot about this movie, guys, but sadly, I don't. The only information I have is what I've pulled off the back of this thing, and what this pretty much says is that the movie has to do with a small Australian town that has a massive hate boner for cars. That's it. That is all the information I've been able to pull out of this. I don't know why this town hates, cars so much. I'm hoping to find out. I'm really hoping that this movie is going to be a little bit more interesting than what was written on the back. I will say, at least, though, on the plus side, that is a really eye-catching title. At least I can say that much. However, though, it helps if you have a good movie to go with your halfway decent title. Now, I don't know if this thing is going to be any good. The only way I'm going to find out if it is if I shut up and I push play, and I'm going to do that right now. So, without further ado, it's time to kick back, relax, and check out The Cars That Ate Paris. Okay, that's a little weird. We have a couple of Australian guys jamming a live cow into the trunk of their car. Is that something, guys, that normally happens over there? Because I totally know I've never been to Australia, but it just seems a little bit weird that people would be jamming live cattle into the trunks of their cars. You know what I mean? It just seems kind of fucked up. Okay, it's totally cool that they opted to add in, background noise here, the sound of, crickets and everything. However, also, we had a dog in the shot who was clearly barking. It would have been nice if they would have looped in, the sound of a dog barking. It just kind of sort of makes the whole scene look really fucked up and kind of weird and just slightly cheap. You know what I mean, guys? Okay, guys, I really have to kind of ask this. I read on a lot of different sites and a lot of sources that this thing is supposed to be a comedy. And I'm not bitching, I'm just mentioning, or rather I'm just going to ask, when does the comedy kick in? And I'm not asking that as a shot at the writing. I haven't even seen any sort of attempt at a joke yet. So, it's just something that's just sort of bugging me a little bit. I was kind of sort of expecting a wacky horror comedy. Instead, I'm getting something that falls into neither one of those categories and sort of falls a bit more into drama. It's not quite what I was expecting, you know what I mean? So now we have a dramatic stare down, complete with, as you can hear, rather, dramatic music, between Arthur and a bunch of the younger folks in this town. Why? I have no fucking clue. This movie really has not bothered to attempt to explain anything, and I'm getting more and more lost with every passing minute. Okay, I can totally understand that all of the young people in this town are incredibly pissed because the mayor opted to torch one of their cars. But I really think that plowing into every building with your cars, thus doing even more damage to your own vehicles, is a little bit of overkill. I will say, though, that I actually am kind of digging how that Volkswagen Beetle looks with all of the spikes. That's probably the only time that a fucking Volkswagen Beetle will ever look cool. Well, guys, that was The Cars That Ate Paris, and I am just as confused now as I was about halfway into the film. Okay, please shut up. Okay. Oh man, where to even start? When in doubt, let's start with the writing. Hang on. Sorry guys, I'm actually kind of tired. Anyway, let's start with the writing and we'll move on from there. I am totally convinced that at some point this story made some level of sense. However, though, between cobbling the story and actually making the film, something, or perhaps many things, got lost. So the film feels incredibly disconnected from scene to scene, oftentimes from shot to shot. Now, mind you, now from shot to shot's more honestly a complaint about the camera work, because there are a handful of shots which just do not match up. However, though, really, we have a story that would make a lot more sense if perhaps maybe a couple of real basic things were explained to the viewer. Example: why is the town of Paris intentionally creating car accidents and then chopping the cars for parts? Why are they leaving the survivors in mental hospitals, and apparently in many cases screwing around with them and putting them in a vegetative state? Why are they doing this? Why didn't they do it to Arthur even though he survived one of their car wrecks? Why did the mayor take such a shine to Arthur? Why did he make Arthur the what the hell was it, the parking officer? Why did any of this happen? Why are the town's teens and 20-somethings allowed to take the cars that aren't completely destroyed and like paint them up and cover them in spikes and like saw blades and all this other stupid shit? Why does anything in this movie happen? I can totally see that there was supposed to be something here that was going to kind of explain it, and perhaps maybe they just ran out of money to attempt to explain it. The movie was made on, I believe, only $500,000, so perhaps maybe it was a budget thing, that they just couldn't possibly explain everything properly. I don't know. The only thing I do know is that this movie makes almost no... Well, okay, the movie makes sense as long as you don't think about it too much. If you begin to wonder, if you begin to try to figure out like motives and reasons, then suddenly the whole thing falls to pieces. Now, mind you, if you are totally willing to go into this thing and not think too much about it, then hell, you will probably have an awesome time with it. However, I am one of those people where I am almost hardwired to do that. I have to read into things. I don't know why. It's something I've done ever since I was 5. It's very weird, and I just could not get into this film. Now, I mentioned earlier that this film has been marketed, especially in the U.S., as a horror comedy, and it even and if you go onto Wikipedia, the movie itself is called a horror comedy. There, if you go over to the IMDb, it has it listed as a comedy horror mystery. You go anywhere, and they're saying it's a comedy, it's a horror, it's a mystery, it's this, it's that. It's none of those things. I don't know what genre to actually classify this thing as. Now, I have ripped into comedies in the past that just were not funny, but those movies were genuinely attempting to make, jokes, and I am fully convinced that this movie at no time was ever supposed to be a comedy, because there is almost no attempt at humor outside of one character, and I don't even remember his fucking name. That is really how shallow the writing kind of is. He would occasionally crack off a couple of quips, and when I say a couple, I mean he had like 3 over the course of the entire film. That is really it in terms of your comedy, potential here. There is no attempt at comedy. There's almost no attempt at horror. I don't know what the hell to classify this thing as. Perhaps maybe, I don't know, art film maybe. But even then, I'm not sure what kind of a message it's trying to send as an art film, because most of those are trying to shoot for that. And plus, if this thing is supposed to be a fucking art film, it's probably one of the better ones I've seen, because it does have a story that makes sense, and it's not trying to, it's not trying to flood you with symbolism, or rather with faux fucking symbolism and other such bullshit. It's just that it has a story, and it's very shallow and very poorly written. Now, mind you, again, this could totally work for some people. I was not a fan. Now, as much, guys, as I could talk about the fact that the thing has almost no like genre to speak of, and the characters are all kind of flat, and the story itself, if you happen to read into it, starts to make no sense at all. The acting is really solid. The acting here, there was like one actor. I think he played was it a doctor or a surgeon? He had like one scene where he just phoned in his lines. It stands out like a sore thumb, and it's when they're figuring out what to do with the priest in his now wrecked car. He completely just phones in his lines there. And it just stands out, especially when in every other scene and every other line is done so well. It really is sort of like the one negative end when it comes to acting, is that one actor for that one scene, he couldn't pull off a thing, and it all sounded forced, it all sounded kind of lazy. It was terrible. Beyond that, though, guys, the acting is great, which means that, which means honestly that as much honestly as I can, dump on the writing, I cannot complain about the acting. The acting was actually rather competent. Camera work was also very competent. The lighting here was nice. The music, what very little music is actually in this movie, is fairly decent until we get to the Pioneers Ball. I guess I should explain. Paris, the small Aussie town of Paris, is holding like a Pioneers Ball. It basically is just something where they kind of sort of look fucking back on their, like early days and their heritage, and everybody's all dressed up as like pioneers, Chinamen, and plus, yeah, and actually the guy had a big sign which actually had to say Chinaman, so that way they knew what he was. Which was probably the closest thing the movie ever honestly got to funny, was that. Almost everybody's all dressed in period, clothing, and they all dance to the same song, which is, I'm not even fooling you, a 15-second piano loop. It sounds irritating. The very fact that you hear that song almost non-stop for about 4 minutes, barring the mayor's speech in the friggin' like middle of it, it really does get grating incredibly quick. Also, seeing as how I'm talking about music, I might as well go into sound. I have already mentioned the one negative point when it came to sound is they had this scene where a guy was walking out. Well, he was walking around outside, and he had his dog, and his dog is clearly barking. You can see the dog barking on camera, and they opted to put in the sound of crickets, which is totally cool. It actually kind of helps set, the mood. People have got to stop messaging me on Facebook. I don't even know why I have Facebook open right now. Anyway, I'm not sure if you guys were hearing the Facebook beeps. Anyway, you can see the dog clearly barking, but when the sound engineer decided to put in the sound of the crickets, he didn't bother to put in the sound of a dog barking, so that way it actually looks right. Beyond that one really questionable point, the sound mix here is done incredibly well. Ultimately, guys, the one thing I could truly just harp on is the writing, and the writing would probably have been better if they would have fleshed out things a little bit more. This movie would have totally benefited to being about 20 minutes longer, just simply to explain why the fuck anything in this movie is happening, because honestly, it just sort of leaves you wondering. So when all is said and done, am I able to recommend the Cars That Ate Paris? If you can find it for free, by all means check it out. Who knows, you honestly might be able to make a little bit of sense out of it. Would I recommend it for purchase? No, I really couldn't. I could if you do happen to find a copy which is free and you watch it and you genuinely like it, then by all means go out and pick it up. However, I would not pick it up blindly because I don't know if you guys are going to be really into this thing. I honestly, wasn't, so really I could not possibly recommend this thing. Now, because this is Fan Appreciation Month, the Cars That Ate Paris came off the Amazon wish list. The person who sent it in was JR, and you can find JR's YouTube channel at youtube.com/user/crossover-game-reviews. Let me check that. Yes, I have it, written down here. Yes, JR, thank you. I was really curious about this movie. In fact, when I saw the title, my thought was it was going to be a lot like Maximum Overdrive, which I really enjoy. Just simply because that's kind of sort of what the title almost seems to hint at, is that it's going to be about sentient cars wrecking everything in sight. The closest thing we have to that is the closing 10, maybe 15 minutes, and the cars are not sentient. In fact, I really think that a movie about sentient cars wrecking a small friggin' Australian town would be so much better. However, I'm kind of stuck with what was given. JR, once more, thank you. And guys, once more, that is youtube.com/user/crossover-game-reviews. I'm going to put a link to his channel in this video's description. Please swing over there and check out anything and everything he has. And if you like what you see, sub him. Now, I just talked about Maximum Overdrive. I'm going to go watch that. I really don't think I've watched that thing in 2 years. So yeah, it's gonna be totally worth checking out, and I'm really looking forward to it. So anyway, guys, with that, we come to the close of another reaction and review. Until next time, ladies and gentlemen, take care, and I will see you all in the near future. Peace.